Hi, so today I'd like to talk to you about the Gutenberg block system. The video will basically be in four parts. The first one will be the UI, so all the buttons in the system and what they do. Then I'll try to explain you how the blocks work, plus go into more detail about the most important ones. And in the end, I'll just show you what to do if you screw up or how to back up the content that you have. And I'd like to say I feel like the system has a bit of a hate-love reputation, which I understand. First of all, from the developer's perspective, it's much more difficult to create blocks than for the others. Second of all, if you start with the system, there's basically nothing there and it might be a little intimidating. But all of these builders are in a kind of conundrum of how capable do we make the system, but at the same time, how complicated do we make it? So it's often called block system, and that's for a reason that the main part of it are the blocks. If we go from the left, then first thing first, this is your favicon and you go back to your WordPress through here. Now here is a plus. These are all the blocks that you have available. Now these blocks could be added through different plugins. Your themes might add some as well. These might be different for everyone. There are also buttons. That's basically just groups of blocks made in some way so that you can start with something rather than building it from scratch. Now, this is back and forth, so that could be pretty useful. And here we get to the what's called document overview, and it's, I think, the most necessary part of the whole system. I think it should be much more visible because the whole system is way more difficult to use without this. So when we open this, we can see that these are the blocks that I have right now on the page. The point is that here you can move them around. You got possibility with the options here to do stuff, mainly duplicate them, delete them, copy them, etc. And without this, it's way more painful to adjust the content. Now, when we get to the right side, then here is another very important button which opens the right side panel. So the right side panel is divided into two sections. One is the page or post or whatever post type you are just editing. And here you got the meta information. So what's the status, URL, author, template, very important, etc. Categories, tags. This again is dependent on the post type, so it's going to be different for your blog post, for example, where setting a featured image is way more important than for pages where they're not very often used. And then we get to the block part. So this depends on the block you are editing at that moment. I'll get more into that. Very important button, publish or save if you have already published. Plus here we got some extra possibilities of viewing. Don't really use that, to be honest. Code editor, we'll get to that. Even some preferences, not really important. Now, of course, in the middle, we got the system itself or the blocks. It starts with the title, so very important. The whole thing is like trying to look like how it would look like on your website, but it's not one-to-one. Usually what I do is that I have the content I'm editing open in one tab or one window, and I'm editing it, saving it, and looking what it has done. Now to the system of the blocks. So here I took some content from one of the Minimalio demos. It's an about page about fictional Samuel. And as I said, this is one of the most important buttons of the whole system. So here I got the blocks. I can open these. And as you can see, it's a hierarchical system, meaning there could be blocks inside another blocks. And this could go almost endless. Not that you want it, but theoretically. If I want to replicate this, that means I got basically two columns. There's a picture on the right side and different text on the left side. I would have to start with the blocks of columns right here. That creates single column twice in the columns. Plus, I got the heading block here, paragraph block, buttons block, image block. Now, the thing is that you can edit and adjust these blocks by different settings that are in two different locations. So first, there are always these options, and these options change depending on which block you are at. Plus, you always have this in the right side panel. I find this a little confusing, but you'll get used to it pretty quick. So as you can see now, I'm in the heading and I got all these options. So first, I can change what kind of block it is. I can also move it like this. I can move it also by these arrows. I can change the alignment. I can change the text alignment. I can change the type of the heading. I can make it bold, italic. I can select it and link. Okay, so either put some URL or choose something from your page. Plus, when that happens, I get this edit link and I have the options of setting it in a new tab. Plus, options here that are identical to options here. Now in this section, when I'm in the right side panel and I'm in the block section, you got again text color, background, size, dimension, so you can add padding and margin, border, and you can set a different HTML ID and another class which could be useful for writing your own CSS. And as you can see, I can now click on the image and this will change and all of this will change. So all the blocks have different options. Now for the most important blocks. Let me delete this and kind of make it from the scratch. I'll start by columns because I find those are the most important one, because very often you want something in columns and you need to know how to use them. So I'll just drag them in there. First, it will let me choose how many and what size are those. Let me choose just 50-50. And if we look at it, we just got two columns. Now, since it's 50-50, that means both of the columns are same width, and therefore their width doesn't have to be set up because they're just the same. If you would choose a different thing, so like 3366, now you can see that the width in percentage is now set up. The nice thing about this is you can just add and remove these and they will always automatically kind of stay the same. As you can see, you can also click in the different pluses that the system gives you, and that allows you to add blocks into the blocks. Okay, so I'll just add some heading, Samuel, and I'll add an image. Now another cool thing about the columns is that you can also choose the vertical alignment, so you can make the block inside the column to be in the middle vertically, which is very cool. Now there are other blocks which allows you to put different blocks in them, like group or row, even grid. So I think the best is for you to just play with them, see what they can do, and kind of try and error. There's no really better way to do this. You can see there's also widgets and just loads and loads of stuff. Now, when it comes to the text itself, I've placed some lorem ipsum here. Important trick is there's a difference between pressing enter and pressing shift enter. If you press enter, you create basically another paragraph block and there'll be space between them. If you just want to get into another line, you have to press shift enter. Now, I hope these are quite understandable, but the important thing is that if you want to, for example, change this into a heading, you just do it here, okay? And now it's a heading, and then you can go back. Okay, cool. Now the last part, if you screw up. So first of all, if you have saved the page or the post multiple times, here in the page sections, you have the revisions. So you can click on those, and here it gives you this slider which shows you the different saved versions that you've done. And if you screwed up, you can just go back and restore it. Okay, so that way you can basically go through the history and restore whatever version you've saved before. Second thing is that right here, there's the code editor, and it will create and show you this code, which you can't really touch. If you touch it, it will probably screw up unless you just change the text. But the point is that you can now select this all, copy it, put it somewhere, and you got a backup. You can also use this if you want to use the same content on some different page or post. You want to, for example, create a duplicate of the page with different content. You do this, you copy paste it into the new one, and then you just go back into the visual editor and just replace the content. Cool. I believe that's it. As I said, I think try and error, best way, and don't forget this, because this is the most important part of the whole editor. All right, thanks, good luck.